Traders, how are you? Marcello, founder of the Day Trading Academy. Today, we'll be talking about the coronavirus. So some of you guys have been asking me what I think happened and what's going to happen. Obviously, the world is going to end, right? Just like SARS in 2013. Remember, you guys can subscribe to the channel. Don't forget, if you have any questions, hashtag Ask Marcello. And we do have the podcast available. If you guys want to, I'm going to put this on the podcast as well. Just look for Day Trading Academy on Spotify or iTunes. And if it's somewhere that you guys are looking for it and can't find it, let me know and I'll make sure it's added on there. So there's a lot of worry and panic going on around the world in regards to the coronavirus. So I want to kind of share what I believe happened based on the information that's out there, and also share what I think is going to happen in the future. Now, I don't believe that this was some kind of bioweapon or that China was doing this to create some kind of weapon. I do think that there was an accident that happened in a laboratory. Now, in the city of Wuhan, where the outbreak started, there's what's called a P4 laboratory, which is, think of it like a top secret, super infectious diseases, on lockdown. That's the kind of laboratory it is. So what I think happened was that they were working on or doing something with bats. Scientists have already found a study where they linked the part of the genetic makeup, the DNA, to bats, right? A certain percentage matches it. So I believe that the Chinese in this lab, this top, super infectious disease lab, they were working on something and something went wrong. Maybe a bat got away or something along those lines. Now in China, if you don't know, they eat everything. There's a very high level of poverty and they eat cats and dogs and bats. They eat everything. There's actually a girl who became, like Instagram famous, their version of Instagram, social media famous, because she made eating bats popular. So somebody ate that bat or the bats or something along those lines, and then that's when it was transmitted to the humans, and that's when it kind of blew out of proportion. So that's what I think happened. Now, this is, what I think happened, right? This hasn't been reported, even though there are some speculation now that, obviously, why did the virus start in the city where there's a high-tech, high-end, not top secret, but you guys get my drift, laboratory, right? So another thing that's very unusual is that China's not letting the World Health Organization in. They're not allowing help from the outside world. And while I do not trust at all anything the Chinese government says, I don't trust at all what any government says. Now, I think it's very strange for me to not allow help in because China doesn't have as advanced infrastructure as United States or the West, Europe. That's part of the reason why this has gotten a bit out of control. And they didn't want to cause a panic because obviously China is growing and they're supposedly supposed to be the next empire, not. So that's why I think this has happened and kind of spiraled out of control. Now, what I think is going to happen next is, I don't think that we've seen the worst of this. I don't think it's the end of the world either, okay? If you guys don't know, the Spanish flu literally took out 5% of the world population. And this can happen again if we really have a serious pandemic. And if you guys can actually see the sensitivity of the world that we live in, right? We're worried about wokeness and Starbucks not serving our coffees hot enough and our internet is too slow. And literally just a little virus can literally knock out an entire economy because China is literally almost completely shut down right now. And that's going to start reverberating through the entire world economy as well. It's going to be a big hit. If I remember the number correctly, we've had probably about, if I'm not mistaken, $280 billion worth of damage, economic damage from the coronavirus. So what's going to happen is the majority of these viruses happen in the winter because they can spread more easily. The advantage that we have now is we're starting to approach spring and summer. So I think once we arrive to probably end of March, most likely April, it's going to get warmer. They're going to have the containment ready, and in China, I think that's going to be the peak. So it's going to get worse before it gets better. The reason why I believe it's going to get worse is because I do not believe that China is reporting the correct information. I think they're lying. So, as most governments do. And the simple kind of, not bureaucracy, the word I'm looking for is the conspiracy theory where they're not letting the World Health Organization, we've had 60, what did I say, 65,000? Can't remember. More than 60,000 people infected, more than 1,500 dead, but everything's cool. No, we got it. No worries, right? So that's why I think it's something that's suspect. They don't want outside people to come in and find out what really happened. So when the real numbers go out, when we really realize the situation on hand is worse than previously expected, that's when the proverbial shit is going to hit the fan. Excuse my French. So that's when we'll see a spike in the metals, precious metals. We'll see a dip in the stock market. That's why, for example, mostly I'm trading the silver miners right now, because this kind of thing, when it happens, you'll see a spike in the silver miners. And if you want me to do a video on how I'm trading right now, I can definitely do that. I've shared it a little bit in the recaps. That I know some of you guys have been interested in that. So end of March, probably April, we'll have the peak. Then it'll start to die down again. The summer will help to contain it. What I'm worried about is what happens if it comes back next year. Because if it was this deadly before, there was an article that I just read on Zero Hedge about how there's a coronavirus that's causing sudden heart attacks. I'm going to read the title. Hubei doctors warn of even deadlier coronavirus reinfection causing sudden heart attacks. Awesome. So, the world's not going to end. We'll have some challenges. Obviously China is kind of the manufacturing hub of the world. We've had car factories stop producing cars and extended the lunar holiday in China, but it will get worse before it gets better. And then things will get better, mostly because of the summer. The summer, the heat, the environment will help us to contain the issue. But what I'm worried about is the next time it comes back, if it does come back. You see what I mean? Because it can mutate, it can get stronger, and that obviously can cause an even bigger pandemic, even though we may be a little bit better prepared for it. And one of the things, since I'm doing this video, that I want to point out to you guys and make sure you guys understand is the next 10 years. Have you guys noticed what's been going on in the world? We have a big earthquake every day now. The fires in California, the fires in Australia. We had the fires in Brazil. We had the volcano going off in Peru. It was Mexico. Then the volcano that went off in the Philippines. I mean, things are starting to get very, very sensitive out there. And now we have this pandemic and we have all this stuff going on. And the reason why I wanted to do this video, because some of you were asking me for it, is I think this is going to get worse. So if you guys don't know, I think the changes in the climate that we're seeing right now have to do with something called the magnetic poles. If you guys are not aware, the magnetic North Pole is moving at an increased rate compared to previous times. The North magnetic, there's a North Pole and there's a magnetic North Pole. And the military in the US and European entities as well, they track the magnetic North Pole. And it kind of moves little by little. Every 6 years they did a survey and then recalibrated everything, because Google Maps and military applications and everything runs on GPS. And GPS, global positioning systems, if you guys don't know, works off of satellites that are rotating on the Earth. So they have to go, planes, airports, it's all by the magnetic field in the Earth, okay? So there's been a report that now the North Magnetic Pole is moving faster, much faster than previously seen, and it's doing literally a straight line towards Russia. So this, to me, is what's causing all of the problems that we're starting to see, and I think it's going to get worse because it's moving a lot faster now. The reason why I found this out was because I read an article about how they're having to recalibrate the magnetic North Pole much more frequently now because it's moving so fast. So that obviously changes the magnetic field. If you guys don't remember, if I'm not mistaken, in 2009, the earthquake in Chile was so strong that it tilted a few degrees, maybe 0.1 degree, the Earth on its axis. It actually tilted it. And NASA has already confirmed that we have had polar shifts, meaning if the Earth is like this, North Pole, South Pole, it just flips like that. They want people to believe that it's a slow process, which I don't agree with. But all of these changes that I think that we're seeing in the climate is partly due, if not a lot has to do with what's happening with the magnetic North Pole. Whether you believe in man-made human climate change and things like that, that's fine. You know, I'm not going to dispute that. I'm not going to go against it, whatever you guys want. But what I'm saying is that the magnetic North Pole is definitely having an effect as well. And so the reason why I explain this to you, and another thing I want to point out, is in the Natural Museum of History in New York, there is a mammoth that they found in Siberia. It's from Siberia. They have it there in the museum that still had fresh food in its stomach. So this mammoth would have had to freeze so fast that the food in its stomach was still fresh when they found it. Polar shift. So I explain this to you guys because things are going to get very bad in the next 10 years. We're going to have a lot of climate problems. We're going to have a lot of economic problems. We're going to have a lot of social problems, which you already have now in the States and the world. And you guys should be prepared for it. Whether you guys want to learn how to day trade to be able to do something from home or do anything else, I'm trying to let you know now because I think things are going to get bad. And if you don't prepare yourself, they're going to be worse. So let me know if you guys have any questions. I can do a video on the actual polar shift if you guys want me to, even though I give you a lot of the information right now. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to have dessert since it's the end of the world. And I'll see you next time.